guys, it's Reagan and welcome back to another video. Today's video I'm so excited for because we're doing a rather large summer book haul. Listen, I've been doing quite a bit of traveling and one of my favorite things to buy as a souvenir are books. Not to mention, there have been so many amazing new releases that I've just been accumulating a lot of titles to enjoy for these upcoming summer months. But before we dive into the books themselves, first a word from this video's sponsor, which is Curology. I'm so excited to be partnering up with my baes over at Curology once again, because I have been using Curology products now for years, and they're quite literally something I use every single day. So I truly adore them so much. If you're not familiar, Curology is a leader in made-for-you skincare. Through their site, you can not only shop a huge plethora of standard skincare items like moisturizer, cleanser, lip balm, pimple patches, and so much more, but you can also gain access to skincare items with active ingredients to target things like fine lines and wrinkles, as well as acne. All of that, which is amazing, is also paired with ultimate convenience because all of these things are sent directly to your door, which I adore as an introverted homebody. Unfortunately for all of us, it is officially getting very hot outside, especially in Texas. We're dealing with a massive heat wave, and my makeup and skincare routine absolutely flips during these warmer months. But luckily with Curology, my routine's still very simple and very easy. It's hot outside, meaning I personally like to wear less makeup, and I also like to wear products that aren't very heavy on my skin because I'm sweating, but I still need a lot of hydration. Sweaty, but dry. A very strange combination I face, but luckily with my favorite Curology products, I'm still covered. Obviously, I have to feature my prescription of their hydrating tretinoid product, which I use every single night. I love this thing, and I also love the addition of the hydrating elements that they added to their formula recently. It's been a game changer for my dry skin, and it feels bouncier than ever, which I appreciate. But with these warmer months, I have transitioned to using their Hydro Plus line, which also works so well with my retinoid product. I've talked a lot about this gel cream moisturizer. The texture is superior. It almost has this cooling element to it, which again is so amazing in this warmer weather. But I've especially been loving the Hydro Plus foam cleanser because it has aloe vera. I have very sensitive skin, and even just like being outside, I get a little bit of irritation. So the aloe vera is so nice as a soothing element as I prep and clean my skin for all of my other elements in my skincare routine. And honestly, this paired with sunscreen is like all I need on a daily basis throughout the summer months, which I love too. Simple makes things easy, especially also if you're doing a lot of traveling. I can just throw all of this in my bag and go. Per usual, I of course have a very special offer for new customers. Click the link down below to learn more, but thank you so much to Curology for sponsoring this video. Let's go ahead and dive into all the books I've picked up recently. There have been some incredible new releases from some of my all-time favorite authors, starting with Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. I'm quite literally reading this right now, and spoiler alert, I am liking it quite a bit. I just love Emily Henry's combination of characters, romance, and concepts that she also includes within her stories. This one in particular I feel like is going to be quite the recipe for success based off the synopsis. We're back following two rival writers, both vying for the opportunity to write the biography of a lifetime. Alice is a very upbeat, positive journalist, and she is competing against our other main character, who's kind of like a grumpy Pulitzer Prize winning writer. They're kind of opposites to each other and forced to be in close proximity as they basically are both involved in this 1-month trial by the subject to see who will win the rights to write this biography. It's set in a vacation town. I love both the summer vibes of this so far, but the camaraderie and the tension between the two main characters is great. I just feel like Emily Henry has such a skill for writing dialogue, really interesting personal character journeys. I always feel like there's a lot of heart and intrigue within her books too. So I've started this, I'm liking it. I obviously bought it right when it came out. I'm really looking forward to finishing it as well. Another new release that was obviously on the top of my to buy list this month was The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I love Joe Abercrombie. He has quickly become one of my top favorite fantasy writers. I've read a lot of his books over the past couple years. I want to say like 9 or so at this point. The Devils is especially exciting because this is actually a fantasy standalone horror novel, which I'm kind of a scaredy cat, but the combination of fantasy and horror is kind of one of my favorite things at the moment. I just feel like they combine to create such compelling and like bone-chilling narratives that I can't get enough of. And this specifically centers religious horror, which as a subcategory is my favorite. And this follows our main character, Brother Diaz, who's just been assigned a new conclave, and he's very excited to finally prove himself, but when he arrives there, he realizes the entire group of his new like church congregation are all like murderers or people who come from very dark backgrounds, and apparently it's going to take bloody measures from them all in order to achieve righteous ends. So many of my favorite things are already at play, and like the ideation of this, I already know I love Joe Abercrombie's writing, particularly his work around characters. I have insanely high expectations for this, and yet I'm pretty confident they're going to be met, but we shall see. This is definitely a book I'm going to be getting to very soon. I also just love the contrast between my first two books I featured in this video. That's kind of my reading taste in a nutshell, honestly. The next book I have to show off is another big contemporary romance release, and that is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I read a bunch of Abby Jimenez books last summer. I flew through them. I really enjoyed them. Another author that I feel like has a great balance between like individual character journeys, romance, great romantic pacing, but there's also a lot of like complexities to her narratives and character work in a way that I appreciate, but they're still like cute and fun. So it's a nice balance of things. This story follows Xavier and Samantha. Xavier is seemingly this like perfect, hot, Greek god, veterinarian-esque character, but then he opens his mouth and they immediately have a very large disagreement. But Samantha loves to prove people wrong, and I think this somehow turns into a date that's perfect. Samantha, at the end of this date, has to confront the reality that her family crisis is too large for her to ignore. So she basically says, Xavier, you're great. Forget me. Say you'll remember me, but like, I've gotta go. And their romance ends from there, or does it? I think this might have a more emotional lean. I also don't think it takes place during the summer, though they are on the beach. So, you know, time will tell on that one. I'm curious how I'm gonna feel about this. I think I've heard maybe mixed things from other people that have enjoyed Abby Jimenez's like releases in the past. I'm hoping I love it though, so time will tell. The next book I picked up might be a little bit of a surprise, and that is A Curse Carved in Bone by Daniel L. Jensen. This, of course, is a sequel to A Fate Inked in Blood, which I read last year. It's a very popular romantasy series. I actually really loved the first half of A Fate Inked in Blood and then really disliked the second half. But I've read other books by Danielle L. Jensen. I like her writing style, and I've liked other releases of hers that I've decided to continue on with this duology and see how the whole thing wraps up. I might love it, but I also might hate it, but there's only really one way to find out. This is a Norse mythology inspired story following our main character who lives in a world where if you have like one drop of blood from the god, you become very powerful, not only like politically significant in her society, but you kind of have extra abilities as well. At the beginning of the book, she's in a very problematic marriage. She's essentially bartered away to a more powerful political figure, which obviously she's very unhappy about. She forms an unlikely alliance with her new husband's stepson, and things sort of devolve from there. Lots of politics, lots of angst, and again, the first half was like honestly incredible, and then it kind of got a little nonsensical at the end, but maybe things will work themselves out in the second book because like she kind of had me there for a moment. And I will say this special edition is quite pretty. It has like these shiny reflective sprayed edges, so maybe I'll like it. The next book I picked up is The Book That Held Her Heart by Mark Lawrence. This is the third book to the Library trilogy by Mark Lawrence, which I have been adoring so far. I just recently read book 2, so I really want to get to the third and final installment before I begin to forget things, especially because I would say the narrative quality of this series is kind of intentionally confusing, so I don't want to let too much time pass so I can't figure out if I'm confused because I'm supposed to be or if I just forgot stuff. It's a delicate balance, you know? This has been such a great series so far. It also has one of my favorite settings I have read in a minute within the fantasy space. Essentially, most of the book series takes place in this massive, unknowable, like magical library that spans like time and space and distance. It's just so cool. And the atmosphere that the author has been able to create within this library setting is just something I have been eating up. More specifically, we follow two main characters, a girl and a boy, from two different worlds that unexpectedly have their lives and fates become intertwined. There's so many great characters. It's such an interesting fantasy setting. So many great concepts sort of woven in. And the entire series so far has been able to maintain this air of mystery that just kind of strings strings you along in the best way possible. Also a beautiful writing style. I haven't read anything else by Mark Lawrence, which is surprising because he's put out a lot of books over the years. I definitely want to read more by him now because I've just been loving this so much, but so excited to have this final installment and to wrap this up very soon. Next, I have a collection of translated Japanese works. I bought some before I went to Japan, and then I bought more while I was in Japan. So here we are. We have 4 to show off. First is Convenience Store Woman, which I've also since read and really enjoyed. This is a short lit fic novel that basically is from the perspective of a woman who has been working at a convenience store in Japan for over 18 years. She views this as kind of her primary identity. She's also a very different individual in terms of how she views herself in the world and interacts with the world. And this is a story very much kind of commenting on like social conformity, what it means to be different. But also the main character is quite unique. So her observational style is something that's going to take you by surprise, and I really appreciated that. This book also, I would say, leans darker than I was anticipating, but overall I found it to be like very effective and it gripped me quite a bit. So yes, a very interesting little book, one I've already read and really enjoyed, and inspired me to pick up Earthlings by the very same author. And I also hear this book is quite astounding in kind of a dark way too. Similarly, this follows a main character who feels like she's very different than the average person in society. Specifically, our main character believes that she is an alien and she's just been waiting for a spaceship to come, pick her up from her Earthling family to move on. Now we find her married and just like trying to be as normal as possible. And I think this book sort of explores that. Clearly some similar themes between her 2 installments so far, and I'm just excited. I feel like she's quite provocative in some of her female characters in a way that I really appreciate exploring, and I am looking forward to reading this soon as well. The next book I picked up is Mina's Matchbox by Yoko Agawa. This is the same author who wrote The Memory Police, a book I've read and enjoyed a few years ago. So I was very excited to see another work by this author available for me to pick up. The synopsis of this is also quite unique and a little peculiar. It follows our main character, who is a young girl who moves in with her very eccentric aunt in the countryside. She lives in like this massive mansion with her German husband, and like every room is kind of a menagerie, if you will, full of very strange and unexpected things. And it says, in this elegant jewel box of a book, Yoko Agawa invites us to witness a powerful, informative interlude in Tomoko's life. Behind the family's sophistication are complications that Tomoko struggles to understand. I think this is going to have elements of like family drama. I think the setting in particular is quite interesting. I already know I love this author's writing. I find it very insightful and just like very thought-provoking, so I'm excited to read more by her. And then lastly, while in Japan, I of course decided to pick up another Kazuo Ishiguro novel, and I grabbed The Remains of the Day, which is a work of his I do not own. And again, I've read books by this author and I've really enjoyed his writing in the past. Not to sound like a broken record. And this, I believe, is like a contemplation on like human life and existence, particularly set in the British countryside. We follow a butler initially in 1956 on his long holiday where he visits a kind of a remote location but also reflects deeply on his past. Specifically, I think it also sort of recounts elements of both world wars and the life that happened between both of these wars. This literally won the Booker Prize, so it's quite a lauded piece of literature, and I'm curious to see what I'm going to think about it myself. Another book I was excited to see and purchase at the bookstore. Next up, I grabbed another highly anticipated release for myself, and that is A Drop of Corruption by Robert Jackson Bennett. I've also already read this book. I'm trying to get better about buying and reading my most anticipated releases as they come out. I'm happy to report this second installment in the Din and Anna mystery series was unbelievably excellent, and I loved every single second of it. Another really great combination of genres. This is a high fantasy mixed with a classic mystery story. It's very much giving like if Sherlock Holmes was in Attack on Titan, and I just eat it up every single time. The character dynamics are hilarious, and the fantasy world is fascinating, and the mysteries are also so good. But let me take a step back. This book is set in a fantasy landscape I sort of describe as like Attack on Titan meets Godzilla. Essentially, there's this empire surrounded by these massive walls because every once in a while, these giant behemoths come out of the ocean and try to destroy all of society. So engineers and the government do their best to sort of prevent this from happening, obviously giving them an elevated state within this society. We follow one of our main characters named Din, and he has had alterations, which allows him to have like a photographic memory. Due to this, he works as an assistant alongside a detective to sort of catalog and remember all the evidence of various cases. His detective is named Anna, and she is quite unusual in like every way, shape, and form. She is a very shocking and strange character, both in her demands, her desires, how she interacts with society, but that also makes her incredibly endearing, and the relationship and the camaraderie that forms between Din and Anna is just so fantastic. Din plays the straight man very often to Anna's like crazed existence, and it just works so well. Very much like Sherlock and Watson, if you know what I mean. Something else I also have loved about this series is that every installment has had an isolated mystery that our characters have to solve, and they all have so many layers to uncover along the way. Robert Jackson Bennett expertly includes like classic mystery tropes that you would anticipate and want in a book like this, but also turns many of them on their head and just like really escalates the mysteries so well, and includes the fantasy landscape within the reveals too, which just makes everything so satisfying. I love this series. Definitely one of my current favorite releasing like fantasy series right now. I just feel like it's clever, it's entertaining, it's fun. It's 10 out of 10. So obviously I bought A Drop of Corruption, already read it, loved every single second of it. The next book I grabbed was Faithbreaker by Hannah Kaner. I actually picked this book up while in London, which was convenient because my other two copies of this are also the British edition, because quite frankly, they're just more beautiful. Like the inside illustrations and the dust jackets are just incredible. This is the third installment to a fantasy trilogy. I really loved the first one. I thought the second one was okay, but I was curious enough to continue on and see how the whole thing was going to wrap up. It's also set in a fantasy world that I feel like has such an interesting backstory. Essentially, it was once ruled by countless gods, some very powerful with large followings, others much more minor and kind of very specific within the god lineup, if you will. But before the start of book one, there was actually a civil war overthrowing the gods' powers and destroying many of them and banishing many of them to like one remote specific location. And we're following a set of characters, one of which is a girl who has a god in her pocket, as they set out on like a quest and journey together. Book one, excellent. Found family, great fantasy landscape and setup. I just love the dynamics of everything. Book two took a little bit of a backseat in terms of structure, writing style, and plotting, but I'm hoping as we're kind of rounding into the finish line, I will come back and enjoy this series once again. I do feel like there were strengths that were seen within the first installment and even in the second installment. So anyway, I grabbed book three. It's stunning, as you would expect, and I'm looking forward to finishing this trilogy. Next up, I have Under the Same Stars by Libba Bray. This came out earlier this year, and I was honestly shocked when I saw it at the bookstore. I had no idea Libba Bray was coming out with a new book, and honestly made me feel like a little bit of a failure as an earlier booktuber, because like Libba Bray used to be all the rage. It was all we used to talk about, and I just completely missed that she had a new release, which was exciting for me to see. I bought it right away. This seems to be a mystery thriller-esque story set in like 3 different timelines connecting a bunch of strangers through time. First set in 2020, we follow 2 best friends who work to keep each other afloat during this troubling time with late night phone calls and their general obsession with true crime, until one day one of the characters receives a mysterious package from her grandmother, which has like information of a cold case from 80 years ago. We follow 2 teenagers in Germany in 1980 and then another character in Germany in 1939. And somehow all of these stories and things become interconnected in this like larger mystery. I don't typically read a lot of thrillers, but I do really love Libba Bray's writing. I find her character work to be very dynamic and complex, her writing style to be quite luscious and beautiful. So I'm hoping this has more of like a literary lean while also being thrilling and interesting. So yeah, I thought, you know, it's summertime, a little bit of a thriller moment could be quite fun. I had no idea she had a new book out. Like, look at this naked hardcover. That's incredible. I actually picked up another mystery. This one is less of a thriller and more of a classic mystery story, like a cozy mystery story, which is definitely a genre I really enjoy. And that is How to Seal Your Own Fate by Kristen Perrin. This is the sequel to How to Solve Your Own Murder, which is set in the British countryside. Follows our main character, who's an aspiring mystery writer, and kind of gets wrapped up in a local mystery centering an estranged great aunt of hers and her like massive estate. I love a small town murder mystery, okay? And I found the first one to be endearing. It had a little bit of romance. It had fun twists and turns. I just feel like a cozy murder mystery done right can be both thrilling and relaxing. It's a hard line to walk, but I do feel like the author did a great job doing that. So we're following our main character once again, solving another small town cold case that is also connected to the past, specifically 1967. I'm excited to be back in this setting. I'm also looking forward to trying to put this puzzle together, perhaps while doing my own puzzle. I find a classic mystery paired with a jigsaw puzzle to be one of the best ways to pass the time. So I was thrilled. We have another book in this series. And then the last book I have to show off is another book I picked up while in London, and that is Winter in Socho. And this book is set in a tourist town called Socho, which is a mountain town near the border between North and South Korea. In this book, we're following our main character, who is a French-Korean woman working as a receptionist at a hotel in this town. And one day she strikes up an unexpected friendship with a guest at this hotel who is a French novelist and graphic artist, and they kind of begin to travel together and go on a journey together through the mountains of Korea. And specifically, this is said to touch on shared identities, divided selves, vision and blindness, intimacy and alienation, and is also said to just in general be beautifully written and quite beguiling. I'm kind of in my short literary fiction era. I feel like I've been picking up and really enjoying these stories that are quite tight in their focus and maybe shorter in their delivery, but leave me just a lot to think about. So I feel like this definitely could fit into that category. I've read excellent things review-wise about this book and this author in particular, so I'm very much looking forward to reading it, I think quite soon. Alrighty guys, that is my summer book haul. Thank you again to Curology for sponsoring this video. I will of course have that special offer linked down below, but thank you so much for watching, and I will see you soon with another video soon. Goodbye!